everyone. Welcome to another episode of Loyal and True. I'm Shelby Kerns, class of 1993, and I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C.
I am Cam Crain, class of the great 1988, down here in Middle Tennessee.
And, we have another great Logger alum with us today. We've got Brad Nicholson, class of 1997. Where are you at, Brad? And what led you from Potlatch High School to there?
Oh, thanks for having me on the legendary Loyal and True podcast. I mean, this thing's going viral, so to be asked was such a great honor. Juralee let me know, and I was like, absolutely, let's do this. And right now, I'm down just outside of Sacramento in El Dorado Hills, California, an area that I never thought I would be, because I thought I would live in the Northwest in Potlatch forever. But through various things, I ended up here and have been working as a financial advisor for 22 years with my company and have a family here. But it's crazy, the story of kind of how I got here, because when I tell people this, they don't really believe me. Like, my world was so small and perfect in Potlatch. All of my family, aunts, uncles. I think my furthest aunt when I was young lived in Moscow. That was the furthest. and we lived on Nicholson Road, right? So aunts, uncles, because the road wasn't even named at first. And they're like, hey, we got to name this thing. Well, there's only Nicholson's on it. Now it's Nicholson Road, right?
It's our road. Yeah.
It's our road. And so all of my family lived close. I didn't know other people grew up without all of their family there for every sporting event, T-ball, YBA basketball, birthdays. And so everybody was close. And in our church in Onaway, right? That's where one of my grandparents lived, in Onaway, all the way over there, 3 miles away. Our church, my grandfather was the pastor. My mom played the piano. I got to be the usher boy once I was, good with money. Maybe they saw something in me early, that I was trustworthy. My dad taught Sunday school and is now the head pastor. And it's like, we just had this little community where, family was around, everyone. So I never thought I would leave family, because their family was everything. Getting to grow up and play basketball with Jerry, who was in my class, younger cousins, Nicholson's were all the way through, the different grades. So it was awesome to be there. But basketball was kind of the thing that, said, hey, after high school, I was like, yeah, I want to play basketball. And through that, I went to Walla Walla Community College, which is ridiculous, because I look at what recruiting is for high school sports. I did none of that. I didn't go to any like travel ball, like
really
any camps. Like I went to like a couple like individual. What's that?
Were they doing that already and you just didn't participate?
They had one team that you could travel with that would pull like all the kids from like Camei and all the kind of the local schools that, Lapway. I don't know if Lapway was in one, but mostly our experience was 3-on-3 basketball. You go play 3-on-3 basketball tournaments, and then you'd play summer high school for your own team, right? Our summer league.
Yep.
There was one travel team you could get on, but it cost a lot of money. And I was like, no, we ain't doing that. That was never even a thought.
Right.
So I went, and I got one opportunity, which I love, because I always say that like God knows how like I need direction. So don't give him a bunch of opportunities. Just give him one. Just give him one opportunity.
Don't confuse him too much. Just give him one.
Yeah, like why give me all these choices? Just tell me where you want to go. Let's not make this more difficult than we need to. So I got to go opportunity to try out at Walla Walla Community College, and loved the coach there. Showed me a lot of good stuff, and I just was so into it. I kind of, when a coach tells you to do something, you just kind of own it. Had really good success there first couple years. Able to get kind of a go to a 4-year after that, get a full ride, go finish out my year at NAI down in San Diego. But the hilarious thing was, talking about my small town, was the first airplane I ever went on was my sophomore year of college, where they flew me down to San Diego to go visit, on a recruiting trip.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to San Diego. It's too far from family, but I've never been on a plane and they're going to pay for the ticket. Why wouldn't I want to see San Diego? So me and my roommate were like, yeah, we'll go down. So I went down there, met the coach, and was unbelievable. It was an amazing coach, amazing culture. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. And so I'd had a full ride offer to Albertsons. They wanted me to play there, and I'd visited there. And then Lewis and Clark actually was going to offer me a full ride scholarship to come there, and I hadn't even visited yet, but I canceled all my recruiting trips and said, no, this is where I'm going. It's never been more clear. This is definitely the fit. And so I kind of moved out of the Northwest when I never had planned to. I never planned to leave. So,
and then once you're in California, that's sort of where your life took off from then?
Yeah, they totally lied to me. They said I was in San Diego, but I was in El Cajon. So anybody that knows where it's San Diego County. Yeah, sure. But it's not the beach. It's kind of desert, which I didn't care, because people are like, man, you get a lot of sun down there. I was like, well, the sun's never shining in the gym. So it doesn't matter. And quite frankly, my skin's not really suited for the sun, if we're being honest. I think Kate Colvin was like, oh, I was a lifeguard. And I was like, oh, I remember that. I tried that for 1 year. And I was like, I'm going to build my base, and then be tan the rest of the summer, have this glorious golden, skin tone. I got burned 6 times. And like 1 week after, the season was over, I was as white as I'd ever been. And I was like, you know what? Sun's just not my thing. It's just
not your thing.
Yeah. Ditto.
Know your strengths. It's just not it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the amazing thing going from high school to getting one opportunity, Walla Walla, then getting a bunch of opportunities, but really hearing a clear, like, this is your spot. These are your people. Went there for my last 2 years, and within a month of being on campus there and just loving every minute, met my wife.
Oh, that's awesome. You met her there?
Yeah. Yeah. So she played on the women's basketball team. And way out of my league, didn't even know that she liked me. I was just happy to be there, kind of thing. And it wasn't for my tan, that's for sure. But yeah, she said she would never marry anybody that could beat her in basketball. And I was never one to like take it easy on her. So somehow, beating up on her, like our dates were on the basketball court because I literally had no money. And so I like, hey, let's go shoot in the gym. That's a great, date night. Right. And so I guess, she was mad at me at the time, but I guess it was also the thing that attracted me or her to me. So.
And a little common ground.
Yeah.
The hard way.
But yeah, so we met there. And I tried to play professionally for a couple years in Australia. But, for whatever reason, everybody's got their story why it didn't work out. But I got to travel kind of the United States, and travel with this Australian team and play different colleges and stuff, kind of getting ready to go. And the timing with 9/11 and the league was supported by airlines. So like all the funding just disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, we're going to delay the league by a month. Oh, we're going to delay it by 2 months. We're going to delay it by 3 months. And I was like, I'm not ready to get married, and I had a job opportunity come up. And the interesting thing was what I experienced in high school, what I had experienced in college, and kind of going professionally, it was not the same thing. When basketball became a business and everybody's out there for a paycheck, everybody's out there to show themselves. It's not about winning anymore. And I think the teams that do find that, like your Warriors, back in the day, when you find that magical combination, it does translate to there you go. Aisha Curry can cook too. Yeah. Right. But I think when they find that common ground and pulling in the same direction, that's when you get those special teams. But it's really uncommon in the professional ranks, and it was ugly. And so I never thought I could be at peace and done with basketball. But by that time, I was like totally at peace, totally ready to move on to other opportunities. So it was a good closure. It wasn't like, oh, I missed out or I wish I would have. I was like, nope, it's over. And I was happy with the trend. But
This
But
probably was getting the closure, if I can ask, did, was that a positive thing because it did help you have
oh,
closure in a
absolutely.
good way and not, wonder what if or wish you could go back and try it again?
Oh, absolutely. And I saw a lot of players that struggled
Mm.
with that aspect of when am I really done, and kind of at the peak of my athleticism and just learning the game. And I could, because that's the
Mhm.
thing is like I would play in the summers. I played actually after I graduated college. I played in the summer pro league down there. So now it's the NBA summer league. They've kind of
G
changed
League
it
Is
now.
it the,
or the
It's not the G League's what goes on during the regular season, but
oh
the
yeah.
summer pro league that they have, they used to have it down at Long Beach. And I was playing against NBA guys and pros from all over and stuff. And it's like you see, like, yeah, I have some skills that are better. And certainly as a 6 foot white guy, they have some things that I don't have. But you see that you could compete, but it doesn't mean you're at the level where that's going to be, sustaining success. So it's like, I wasn't 6'7", wasn't six, I wasn't Darren Nagel at 6'10", you know what I mean? So it's just like there's limitations, but it was great to be able to kind of move on, because I think some people it's like it's who they are, and I want to talk to you guys too about some of the things I'm looking at, but like in terms of identity, because it's easy to put your identity in sports, and then when that's gone, you're like, well, who am I, right?
Yeah.
And I
right?
was fortunate not to go through that. But basketball was so good to me. It was so amazing because, like I said, I never even flown on an airplane. And the cool thing was at Christian Heritage College, the school I went to for my last 2 years, one of their requirements was you had to go on a mission trip. And it could be your local community. You just had to do something to serve the community. But I had gotten offered, because I'd had pretty good years. I'd gotten offered to, like, hey, we're putting this, trip together and we're going to Taiwan and we're going to be there for 2 months. We're going to play all these teams. Do you want to go? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And
Yeah.
then the next year it was Africa. So we went to Morocco and we played like the Moroccan national team. And
Whoa.
so it's
How
like,
cool is that, Brad? Little potlatch
yeah,
boy
yeah, no,
going around the world.
it was awesome. And then, like, to start our senior year, we went down to Mexico City and we played against some teams down there. And so it's this thing where I've gone from never being on a plane to literally traveling the world, within a couple years. And it was all because of kind of the platform that basketball, the opportunities basketball had given me. But really, the story of basketball, like it didn't even make sense. It's all because of Potlatch. And I know, you guys had asked, on some of the podcasts, like, how did Potlatch impact you? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the whole basketball, how that worked through and how it was coming to kind of like a staple within the community really influenced my life, hugely. In fact, the first two memories I have of Potlatch are Ty, your brother,
Right
Really?
on.
and Cole Bringleson.
Yeah.
And it was Cole older than Ty, or were they in the same
No,
class?
he was younger. So Cole was the year between us, I'm pretty sure. So I think he
Okay.
was 90,
Okay.
class of 92, and Ty was 91.
So I think for whatever reason, because we'd kind of done a little bit of a homeschool thing and some other things. So I guess I was elementary school in fourth grade or fifth grade. So I hadn't been around all of the time, but I think it was I went to a high school basketball game.
Yeah.
And I saw those guys, and it was like, those guys are like legends, you know what I mean? Like, it must have been like a district game or something. And I have no idea if they were terrible or not, but it was like, these are the best basketball players I've ever seen. I mean, look at that guy,
Yeah.
And then you had like the AJ, because AJ was in your class, right? AJ and Carrie.
Carrie was in my class, and AJ's a year younger.
Okay. So you had
Yes,
Carrie.
they were on the same team.
Yep. Carrie, AJ, and then Jason Large. And then you got into the Minden boys. And then, Gabe, like you had this whole class of guys that started to like raise the standard of through Coach Lovell of Potlatch basketball. And as a young kid, it's like, yeah, I'm all about basketball. Right. And it's like, nobody ever told me like, you're the smallest guy in the world. Like you should choose baseball or some other sport where height doesn't matter. It's like, no,
But the
we're gonna be
culture was
basketball players.
strong, right, Brad? I mean, that's part of what you're talking about,
Oh,
Yeah.
Sunday ball was really, really big when I was growing up. And, I was really small for my age too. And the guys would not take it easy on me. And they'd be like, hey, man, if you're going to play, you need to toughen up. You need to figure out this game.
for sure.
And I remember even my senior year, for the workout period, they gave you some flexibility. Larry Smith and Darren Andrews would come to the school because they were helping coach, I believe, and they would come there early and just bang. They're like, Crain, come here. You're playing 21. I'm like, I don't want to. And they're like, come here. And they would just tear me up, but it got me better and better and better. And there was a camaraderie to it that was amazing.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
No, you're 100% right. And I didn't realize that like that wasn't normal.
Right. Right.
So you had this, like, you had all these families. You had the Haddocks because you had Terry, right? You had Terry and Brendan, and Mr. Haddock was a coach. You had the Lovells, which their boys were a little bit younger, but coach was obviously setting the tone and was like a legend at Elk River, kind of think he knew his stuff, which is rare. You go to high schools, it might be the English teacher. It might be somebody that wants to make a couple grand more. The amount of money they get paid for the impact they have is so unfair.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And so if you have a great high school coach, it's like gold. It's like a gold mine. And we did, but you had this whole culture of all these families and the Strongs, Carl,
Yeah,
and Clayton,
I had to go through a lot of Carl
emblem.
screens, man, on Sunday ball.
Yeah, the Jeff Strong. I mean, I think they painted the Logger emblem off of his profile.
Totally. Shout out, man.
So these were the families, and you had all different, like young to old, and they would all, and my dad would play and I would play. And then my brother, as he came up, would play. And you had these open gyms on Sunday where it was like, you weren't good enough or strong enough. And maybe you had a little bit more skill, but you were playing against a 30-year-old dad that was a logger and freaking strong as all can be and knew how to play.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you had guys that would come into open gym and do a roll. They weren't looking to score. Like, no, I don't shoot the ball. I set screens and rebound. That's my thing.
Yep.
And it's like, so as a kid, it just imprints on you. Like, you have a role on this team and you have expectations and you just played. When I came to California after graduating, I'm like, all right, where's the open gyms? Like, we got this one. Like, you guys don't like play open gym every Sunday? Like, every kid on the high school team doesn't show up and play?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. And you know what? They weren't very good. Like, there was a
as a
reason
result,
high school,
right? You need that culture. Yeah.
So I'm thoroughly convinced that that's why when you have a school as small as ours, you could have an 8 or 9 or 10-year run in basketball where you're just good every year. It's not the talent. It's the competitiveness, and are they being taught and brought along and developed in a certain way that's effective to win. But I got to tell a story, because my first coach that I remember, because my dad coached like our AAU teams and our younger teams, which was great. So when I got into junior high, I think your dad, Shelby, actually coached me my 7th grade year and maybe my freshman year. But the funniest thing was, I remember my first experience with basketball, like at the school level. And it was him saying, all right, guys, you're young men. I need you to tell you about some stuff. You need to wear a jock strap. And I was mortified. Like, why am I wearing these underwear that don't have a button? I'm like, what is the point of this thing? And and he was very professional about it. And, so you got to put it on, kind of thing. Like, and we're like, strap. Why can't I just wear my underwear? Then luckily they went with like the compression shorts. I think AJ and his group, they went with these compression shorts, which was the cool thing. So like, yeah, I'm never doing that. But luckily, but that was my first thing there with basketball. And he was such a good teacher. He was the first one that taught me about, like, you got to count your shots. You should be able to make. And I think his thing was like 90 out of 100 free throws. Like, you got to set a goal and you got to do that. And he was so calm and measured. He was the only calm and measured coach I ever had at Potlatch.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Because then I went into Jeff Strong, who was all brimstone and fire and, hello, Africa. And you got to knock him in the teeth, kind of thing. And so we had that, and then it went to Coach Haddock, and your dad actually helped Coach Haddock with kind of our freshman JV team as well. And I'll tell you what was so interesting is they expected so much out of us. And old school coaching, rip you, personal insults, didn't, if you were doing the right thing, they were encouraging, sure, but they did not hesitate to call you out at all. And I think Clark mentioned that in his talk, was just people calling you out and expecting high level. Mm-hmm. And when I went to like all the other colleges to play college basketball, so many guys couldn't handle hard coaching. Like we'd have players quit, coaches this, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, yeah, he just called you an SOB, but so what? He was trying to tell you to box out and you didn't box out. So, you should probably box out, kind of thing. But it just prepared me like, no, I can take this kind of coaching. Like I was resilient and able to kind of hear what they were saying, not just how they were saying it. And so it never fazed me, and it equipped me for life in basketball better than almost any other skill that I had. Was, yeah, just take it, learn from it, and grow. Don't take it personal, just get better. So that was a huge thing, because there was plenty of yelling in high school. And luckily, if you did things right, you didn't get yelled at a lot. And Brant Lovell was on my team, so his dad saved most of his stuff for Brant. But yeah, so these coaches wanted the best. They taught you. It wasn't just yelling; they were teaching you how to play correctly.
Yeah.
Getting your attention, right? Getting your attention.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to get yelled at like this.
Yeah. And what it was is like, you'd have these guys like, we can win, right? And then you had guys like Justin Minden who are like, I'm all about basketball and I'm going to work at it. And so then you wanted to emulate those guys. Like Justin, I think, what was he? He's 2 years older than me. But we used to go into the gym before school. Like, I'm like a nerdy 7th, 8th grader. And we would go in, and we would play hoops in the morning for a couple hours before school, go up to my grandma's house, and on the way, shower. She'd make us breakfast, and then we would go to school. Like he was willing to go do that with like a little nerd. Cause I got my driver's license. I think it was 5'4" on my driver's license, like 115 pounds. I think only my brother may have been smaller. He was like 5'2" or 5, maybe he was 5'4" too, but yeah, we would go in and shoot hoops in the morning. We would shoot hoops at night. Like I think about our community, and like, we didn't have a lot of money. We were like every other family. I mean, everybody's kind of in that law. I mean, you could put food on the table and there was elk in the freezer. Like nobody was going to starve, but you didn't have to have like a ton of money or your own court, because you could get into the high school gym and you had your own court whenever you wanted. Now, I had to give a shout out, because Maryland and I got to remember who was the other? There was one other, Bernie Nagel. They were the janitors. So Marilyn and Bernie were always there late at night, and nobody was supposed to be in the gym. And, you could figure out how to kind of, wiggle the lock on the door on this time, or this door. If you turned it 3 times real fast, it would open, kind of thing. There was always something broken that would allow you to get in. But they would catch you in there, and they'd be like, hey, you got to get out. And I schmoozed them enough over time and proved that I wasn't there to rob. I was actually there to shoot. So after a while, they would like let us in, let us shoot hours when we weren't supposed to be in there. So I give a ton of credit for them, like opening up the gym for me, just, my brother, just to go shoot, shoot hours upon hours, which was, so you had your own private gym. So it's like,
that is awesome. That's also, it goes back to what you were saying about community, I think too, that you had to prove that you were there not to cause trouble. But then it's like, why would we not let our kids into the gym? Like that was very much, I feel like the ethic and the way people were in Potlatch, they were our kids, Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I couldn't bring Jerry. I mean, if I brought Jerry, like, no, you guys are trouble, you got to go. But if I was just by myself.
We got to get Jerry on here at some point to get his side of this.
But yeah, no, it was amazing. Just, kind of the support that you got, from the community, whether that was Sunday basketball, whether it was, people willing to show up and 3-on-3 teams, like people were really committed. Basketball was like kind of a core, it was a core activity, but that represented kind of core values of a logging community. Like I base like all of my leadership in whether in business or in different kinds of groups off of what we did for our basketball team. So when Lovell came, he had 3 separate awards, at least when I was there. I think he developed them over time. And the 3 awards were because he was a wood shop teacher, right? So he'd make these boards in his wood shop. One of them was the assist board that looked like an envelope on the back, was painted as an envelope, and on the front it would have each game and who led the team in assists. And so if you got the most assists that week, you would get the board and you get to carry it and bring it to the next game. The next one was the rebound board, which was owned very frequently by the strong boys, or like Jacob Vowles, you know what I mean? And so you'd get your name written on there, and you could carry that, and that was a badge of honor. But the coveted award was the hard hat award. And it was a Logger 10 hard hat. And the person that got that was the person that took the most charges, the most hustle, dived on the floor, most loose balls, did something just ridiculous to just like going above, shut somebody down, kind of just the heart and soul of the team. And that was the most coveted award. And if you won that, you got to wear that game day to school. Like, what kid wants to wear a hard hat to school? But guess what? You did. If you had that thing, oh yeah, people. I never won it. But we always had guys that were way more tough. But the beauty of that was every role matters. Okay, so I led the team in scoring, right? You get your name in the paper. You get plenty of notoriety for that. You get all league, whatever. But that's not what makes a great team. The great team is all the role players that got their teammates open, got rebounds. Those are the things, dove on the floor, got extra possessions. That was the culture of the team that was celebrated. So you could have a guy go for 30 and Gabe Baker take 3 charges and dive into the stands 5 times. And it was like, Gabe was the player of the game, and everybody knew it, and everybody was pumped for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that ethic with respect to when you think about team chemistry, like there are the people that are, out in front or leading the relationships or whatever that get the notoriety is, getting the job done, the head sales people or whatever. But it's really the people behind the scenes that make the team strong and make it outperform relative to what it should do. So, yeah. So like I said, even in the AAU basketball teams I coach down here for my son, and stuff like that, we would use the hard hat award. Now, it didn't translate because we're like, what's a hard hat for? Like, I have no idea. Like, all right, we got to come up with something else. But say like a hard hat, stuff falls on your head. You don't get it. So, but yeah, it set the cultural like tone, even for me now. Like we have so I work at a financial advising firm. We have like 17 people, and I'm president of the firm and partners with the founder owner. And just as I run the team, my thought process is, how do we give recognition to all the people that make everything work, make everything happen seamlessly? The people that are out winning business or getting the notoriety, they're valuable and they know it and they get compensated for it. But how about the people that are the heart and soul of what the culture is? And so those things still carry through from Potlatch basketball.
Look at that lesson. Wow. That's awesome, Brad.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic leadership lessons. It's like you really became a leader from what you learned and were able to translate.
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing I loved about basketball too, is like, my freshman year, sophomore year, I was still on JV. Junior year got moved up to varsity, and it's like, every year you had people that were like, okay, Justin Minden is the leader of this team. He sets the tone, and your best player has to give the most effort. And then the next year it was Jacob Vowles and Clayton Strong, and they had to carry the torch. And, and we knew we were going to be pretty decent because we had really good talent those years with the Minden boys. They were strong, they were athletic. But after the class of Jacob Vowles, David Fiskus was a good athlete, Clayton Strong, I was trying to think who else. Oh, Gabe Baker. They were a really strong. When they left, and it was just my class, we were the seniors. The best thing is the league ranked us, and we dropped. We finished second in state, right? We dropped they've had us finishing like second last in our conference, not even in the district.
Oh.
Like we were ranked second lowest. And so it was me, Jerry, and Brant were the three seniors, and Jesse Brown, who didn't get to play, but he was a senior. But it was us three, and then there was three sophomores, which was Carl Strong, right, a younger brother. It was Bruce Lovell, a younger brother, and it was TJ Hadler. And Nick Kressel was in between us, but those six were the most of the playing time. So you had three seniors and kind of three sophomores, and the three sophomores were our three biggest guys, and the three seniors were all these skinny little, guys that could play basketball, but we had no size, and so we were ranked and I was the only returning starter. Brant was the only other guy on varsity. Jerry, his junior year, I mean, he was a good player. He played half JV, half varsity his junior year because he wasn't going to get a ton of time. He's like, no, I'll play JV. And, he'd score like 35 points before half in a JV game, kind of thing. And so we had these guys in this culture of like the next person just has to step up.
Yeah.
And it was at the same time that Orfino had those two 6'10" twins. And our tallest guy was TJ. He was 6'2".
I had no idea that there were 6'10" twins.
Wow. And you're playing Orfino. So they were in a class above us when I played. So you were.
Yeah. So they were still much bigger school, but they were still in our league. And then they had another 6'4" guy that was like their small forward. And like your small forward's bigger than our biggest guy who doesn't even start. So what do you think about that? So, and we ended up winning league that year and finishing, of course, second in state, as we tended to do.
Now that's an accomplishment. Who did you lose to? Was that Lapway when they were on their big run, or when?
No, we dominated Lapway during that time period. We lost to Teton in the championship.
Okay.
Yeah. So we lost to Teton my sophomore year, which I really didn't play, and then my senior year. And then Malad my junior year. But I think the loss was 6 points my sophomore year, 5 points my junior year, and 4 points my senior year. So if I had like 5 more years, we would have won.
You were headed in the right direction.
We're trending well. Yeah.
Yeah, we were, the loggers saw. We were sawing through that tree.
That's right. There. Making progress, making cuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just held on a little longer. By the time I got to Nick, should have been there.
Yeah. Well, that was the beauty of it too, is there was good teams that continued after us. And the amazing thing is when I went to college and I learned a bunch of new footwork stuff, how to get my shot off, especially being so small. I really took hold of it, and I came back and I taught my brother, who he started on varsity, I think his sophomore year. I think he was 115 pounds. Like,
wow.
He looked like he was small. Baby. He was so small and deadly. Like he could really, really shoot. So he ended up following me through college. He went and played at Walla Walla 2 years, had 2 outstanding years, and then went to a 4-year down in the San Diego area, much better school, Point Loma, but to play for my same coach there too. So he had a great career.
Wow. That's so
after
cool.
that as well.
So I had a question for you about that, because growing up, I wondered how it was for you with the 3-point line, and for littler guys like us, it changed the game. And Ty and I would spend a lot of time in the shop out on the farm, and Ty always liked the long ball. And you saw him; he was a knockdown shooter,
lefty. I still remember the lefty,
yes.
the lefty jumper.
Yeah,
lefty. And I remember being at games with Jim and Shelby and Debbie, and sometimes Jim even telling him to drive around the guys because the guys were so close on him. He'd be at the 3-point line and they would be right in him, just right in his chest. And he's like, he would just take a dribble, step back, or just step back and shoot over them and just punish them. But you watching the 3-point line must have changed things, because I went through the transition where the coaches were still pissed if you took a shot. I was in that era of you got to have 5 passes before a shot, and I got benched because I love the 3, and and Shelby knows. And like I remember one time coming in, and I was a pine rider on the JV, man, as a junior. I was terrible, and I'm launching. I put on. He said, "Crain, 5 passes." I'm like, "Yes, sir." I went in. They threw me 1 pass. That shit went up, and it went in, and I went out. I was like, but I was open. It was a good shot choice. I was open.
Yeah. So, you were like a little bit of the Hoosiers. Who is the head coach then?
Yeah. So you had Rick Meddock had transitioned, and Mike Barrett had taken over. So I don't know if you know that era, but Meddock was for the level for you. He was for Dan Akins and Darren Andrews and Ryan Ball and that group of guys. And I was in the pep band that year when we lost, and it was so close. Oh, that was a heartbreaker. That would have been 86. And that was the year. I remember very clearly when Dan Akins dunked in a game at home and the crowd about blew the roof off.
I remember that. I was remember that. I remember that just because he was like a god to us.
And he was always so polite. Like he could have been, oh my goodness, he could have been so mean to guys because he was so much bigger and had elbows, but he had such a good touch. But this time somebody got a turnover and he went down on the break and everybody started to stand up. Oh, and the ball, and I think it was Andrews threw the ball up to him and just like one step pivot straight up, very polite dunk. No celebration. No, I don't even know if he high fived because he's so, so settled, so calm, hauled his ass back on defense, but the crowd was going crazy.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing Kerry Baker attempt a dunk in a game, and the crowd went wild as if he had just hit like a 3-pointer from half court. He didn't even make it, but he just went up. I don't even know what the ball hit off the backboard or something. He grabbed the rim and the crowd went wild, and he had the Baker smile, right? I mean, as big as, and just running like, and it's like, we didn't get a point at all. And I know we must have been ahead by a lot because he was a smart ball player. So if it would have mattered, he would have laid it in.
Right.
But I just remember like the crowd would just go nuts. So when we got Jacob Vowles, right, he could dunk.
Yeah, because he could dunk.
Oh.
Yeah. He was pogos on 6'5", so he could totally dunk.
Nice.
So we got a couple dunks, then too. But the Potlatch crowd, you wanted to fire them up. You get a dunk, and it was just the roof was coming off.
Yep. Absolutely.
Think, one of the things that that kind of reminds me, just talking about the crowd going wild over everything, and you were talking about, everybody being at all the games and all the support, was when we would go to state and you'd have these local even teams and, from a bigger, much bigger town, and our crowd would dwarf them. We were, Potlatch and Lapwai, I think, always had the best crowds. And, it's always nice seeing how people turn out and support the teams. I think that's a big part of that, like feeling that support as a young person.
Yeah. And even a couple years, I make my way up there. My brother lives down in the Boise area. And so if there's state and the boys are in there, and I know Brant's boy was on there and Bruce's boy was on there. So I made it up the last couple years just to say hi and see a game, and people are still, showing up. It probably felt bigger back then than it really was, but you felt like the eyes of the entire town are watching and everybody's 100% behind you. So it was incredible.
Yeah. I remember going, because I was living in Boise and going over, and it was basically an entire team of Nicholsons. You had,
Jerry and Lanny's boys.
Yep, Jerry and Lanny's. I was like, this is, it was like a time warp. It was it was really fun. It was just fun to see everybody and watch them play. That was a good team too. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's such a cool thing, for a small community to have that to rally around. I mean, I think, in today's world, especially in bigger cities, I even say it like in bigger churches, like the bigger it is, the less people you actually know.
Yeah.
And, whether it's colleges, churches, communities, when you're in a small community, you actually know more people because you see them so much more frequently. Mm-hmm. And I'm all a proponent for, you got to be connected in a smaller group of people. You have more community than you'll have in a city of 500,000 for sure.
And
You
it's
will.
a generous community, right? Because everybody does know each other. And I think that's something that, you know, in a bigger area, people don't even understand how generous a small community is.
Yeah. Well, it was cool. Just from a community standpoint. So my senior year, we had a good team and we went to the national tournament out in Tulsa. We ended up finishing 4th in the nation, but Wendell Cochran got to come out and watch and be a part. And so, you know, of course it was my dad, my brother, and Wendell. And we were like, no, you're coming on the team bus. Like, you're riding with us. And so, like, he was there, you know, and Wendell and his laugh, and, like, you know, my 6'7" black ex-Marine center was, you know, singing these songs and like rubbing his head. And he was just like laughing to the, you know, like, it was so amazing to see like that Potlatch contingent be able to be a part of, you know, my college experience. In fact, when I was at Walla Walla, I had 2 games every year. We'd play, you know, home and away, and we'd play Spokane. And a bunch of people would come up to the Spokane game to watch me play. And it was actually, it was 2 of the 4 most points I ever had in a college game. 2 of them were at Spokane.
Nice.
You know, in front of the Potlatch crowds.
The
like
Potlatch
40,
crowd, like back home almost.
Yeah. Well, and the stupid thing was Spokane played a zone and they didn't cover the corner. My coach would just put me in the corner and I'd have like 10 threes. And so it was perfectly made. I appreciate Spokane's contribution to let me score that many points, but it was awesome to do it in front of like the home crowd.
I have a question about recruiting. You know, we were talking about how, you know, we didn't have all those things of, you know, just all the work and the money that goes into it. You know, you're taking kids and spending thousands of dollars a year to get them in front of people, and you know, but it's expensive. So do you think there's a lot of really good players that maybe don't get developed or recruited because if you can't pay that money, do you just never get in front of people?
Interesting topic. I actually have 2 kids. So one of them's 20, one of them's 18. My son plays baseball at St. Mary's College. So like, you know, the kind of the Gonzaga rivalry. And then my daughter plays soccer at Colorado State. So I've seen the kids sports, especially here in California, like the other side of it. Like and even my wife played basketball. She played on the All Arizona Nike travel team. So they traveled the nation. There was like one team for the state that was the cream of the crop. And so even then there was AAU that I didn't experience. So like when I look at my journey of one opportunity, which translated into other opportunities, it's totally different than what my wife's experience was, and totally different than my kids' experience was. And my son it was definitely, there was high school sports down here. Maybe football mattered. None of the other sports, high school, even matter.
Yeah.
It's all travel. It's 100% travel. So my daughter, she homeschooled by choice, and we just played club soccer, ECNL club soccer, which is kind of the highest level of soccer that you can play. And they play tournaments all over the United States, and they're supposed to be able to still go to school. That's why we started homeschooling. Is like, we can get her schooling done, work our calendar around that. But she loves soccer, but it turned into, you know, she's got a travel team that she plays on where you got to go to tournaments, but you have a strength coach, you know, you get individual workouts in, you know, separately. And now with NIL money, it's basically professional sports. And my son was kind of the same in that you got to have hitting coaches, you have travel teams, but they don't really practice. And you do have a high school team, and he had an amazing high school team. He kind of had the experience I had a little bit. He went to a small Christian school. So we were like, I think there's six divisions in California, and we were the second smallest. And by the end of his senior year, I think they were 35-1, and they were like top 30 in the nation, in the state. State. So even for a small school, they were really, really good. So, but it was amazing to see the small school relative to the kind of the overall sports landscape, where there's so many kids and so many talented kids. I don't think talented kids necessarily get overseen, because if you have enough talent, people find a way to get you the money to pay for it. But you don't get to choose multiple sports, because the high schools are so good. Like if you want to play football at Folsom High, which is probably a top 5, and it's 20 minutes for me, and it's probably one of the top 5 football programs in the nation. You play football year round. You're working out, you're with the team. So you have to specialize really, really early, which is opposite of everything at Potlatch. Like I played football my senior year because I was finally above 130 pounds. And they were like, we need people to field the team.
We need you.
Yeah.
And Coach Lovell was like, hey, he's the basketball coach, right? And he's not like, no, don't get injured. He was like, yeah, you need to play football. I mean, Brandt's out there. We got to field the team. And I played 1 year. We were not very good, but it taught me a different level of toughness too, that translated to basketball. So it was super helpful. Loved the experience, but it's like, I could just show up having never practiced football and start, for Potlatch, because we needed bodies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, baseball wise, the same thing. I actually was going to play baseball. I played my first 2 years. And after I came back from our state championship loss, I was like, no, you know what? We're not good at baseball either. I was like, I'm not spending every Saturday with freezing hands driving to Lewiston to get drubbed for 4 hours. Like I'm going to be in the gym shooting hoops. And our AD did not like that answer, but it was, the thing was like, they needed you in every sport. And so I think Kate Colvin was saying, you got to try some of everything, see what your passions are, because if I would say this, if I was in California, I wouldn't have played basketball. I couldn't have. I developed too late to have gotten an opportunity. And so that was the beauty of being in Potlatch is, yeah, you're 135 pounds, but we need somebody to be a point guard on our team. You're the best we got. So stick with it. And so I think there's a lot to be said for, yes, there's great competition here and there's amazing athletes in California. But even within California, don't just go to bigger is better. Find a place where you're actually going to be able to participate and play, whatever level that is. It's better to play than to be on a big team and not play. That's, even in Boise.
Yeah. Go back to the the human experience, the player experience. Look at what you learn by going through all of that. And then it develops you as a human, as an adult. And in your case, it shaped your business philosophy.
For sure.
Tremendous effect on that. And it's occurring to me too. You were talking about your team earlier, your current team, and how I think you said 17 people, and that's kind of cool, because that's like if you take a JV team and a varsity team, it's about 17 or maybe 17 to 20, and that small group is like a good group for somebody like you, because you get to know everybody really, really well and help them understand their roles and set them up for success. Yeah,
and I think lean into their strengths. I think the thing is if you look at it from a business standpoint and you say, here's all the positions I need to hire for positions, right? That's one approach, because that's a legitimate business need. The other side is I'm hiring people, and as they come in, am I assessing their skills constantly and their talents and saying, you know what, I hired you for this position, but you're amazing at that. We don't even have that position, but maybe we should make that position. We had that situation with a lady that we hired to be like a client service person. She was amazing at client service, but she had ability to kind of like look and feel of materials and what makes us look good from a presentation standpoint, a website standpoint. Now she's our marketing director. We never even had a marketing position. Now she just kind of moved into that, but it's her strength. And we call her like the officer of first impressions, like the champion of first impressions. Like if we want somebody to see us, we want her to say, okay, how should we look? What should we do? And she's the one that kind of gives us all of that. So it's like operate in people's strengths, because it's hard to understand the talents and skills that people have that you never even knew existed. And I think that's true of everybody. Is, one thing that I'm actually doing right now that doesn't have anything to do with business, it's kind of like a side life mission kind of thing, is I have a company called True Path, and it's just my consulting company that I work through, and we're going to college athletes and talking to them about their identity, because they've been told their whole lives their sport is their identity. They're valuable based on performance. You are what people say about you. You have all of these things that athletes, and everybody experiences this, but I know it personally from an athletic standpoint. And so we're going into these colleges and speaking to their athletes and saying, that's not who you are. That's not who you're creating. Your identity is who you take into your sport. But when your sport leaves, you don't lose your identity. You take that identity into your relationships. You take it into your occupation. You have talents and skills and abilities that are unique to you. How do you unlock those? And when people see themselves through that lens, instead of, oh, I was supposed to be like that person over there, that person's a success, I'm trying to copy or emulate somebody else.
Yeah.
The freedom you get when you find out who you are and what you were meant to do, it changes everything. And it's like a kind of think of like a mental, like a psychological, like truth is that who you believe you are determines your behavior. A lot of times it's the biggest determiner of behavior. When you believe something, you're more likely to do it. Like you see it in sports. When somebody is confident, I see this all the time. Like somebody that goes into a game that is not that good and there's pressure free throws, but they're like, I'm the best free throw shooter in the world. And you're like, this guy's going to miss. And they just step up and they sink it. It's like skills wise, there's no reason they should have made it, but they believed they were going to make it. And it makes such a huge, huge difference. And I think kind of unlocking that value for people in sport, but really outside of sports, on my team, like, who are you made to be? Like, what is your natural gifts and abilities? Because the world needs that.
Yes.
You don't need to emulate anybody else. Who are you made to be? To me, that's one of the most powerful things to kind of unlock kind of the hot coal of who people are and turn it into a flame. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'm super, super passionate about, and again, carries from sport all the way through life.
I'm seeing this in a different phase of life where, a lot of my peers are, looking at retirement. We have these things, and it is, I kind of give a similar talk all the time where I'm like, you're who you are, not what you do. And those things, who you are feeds into those things, not the other way around. But, I think, in some cases generationally, or that there's just a lot of reasons why people, I think, get that backward. And then you're lost.
Oh, for sure.
You take that away and people don't know. They don't know who they are.
Oh, for sure. So in my business, we work with hundreds of really high net worth families and, doctors and things like that. They make a lot of good money. And people say to me, I'm retiring, but I'm like losing my identity. And the thing that even through the 20 some years that I've done this, the thing I've realized, and I guess kind of the key statement is, money is not the goal or the objective. It brings no fulfillment. What it is it's a tool. And it's a tool that helps you accomplish things that bring purpose and fulfillment. So stop looking at money as the objective, but say, okay, I have an objective. Now, how much money do I need to accomplish that? Whether that's philanthropic, supporting my family, living a certain life, being, charitable locally and being involved in my community. How do I use my time? But I tell people all the time, like, we've gotten this whole notion of, I need to go all the way to a certain date so I can stop. Like, why would you live 50 years so you can stop? The best 50 years of your life just to stop something.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you live with purpose the whole time? And guess what? Retirement to me is like, you can stop anytime. You can choose what you do any day, whether you make money or not. That's retirement. And a lot of people are really good at what they do. They can work part-time. They can travel as much as they want, with teleconferences. Like, I can consult clients in different countries. Like, I can, quote unquote, be retired and still make money, and it still engages me. Why wouldn't I do that? So to me, I've seen that on the professional side so much. And it's just like, money's just a tool. Let's put that aside for a minute. That's kind of the quantitative side. What are we trying to accomplish? Let's focus on that first.
How do you want to spend your time? Like as you focus, what is the design of your life? That's something that I've been thinking about a lot too. So that really resonates, Brad. I love that you're doing that.
Interesting, because like that that identity, one of the things that we talk about a lot that kind of seems to be a theme too is how much being from Potlatch is part of all of our identities and how that like kind of feeds together into who we are and made a sense of community. And maybe that's something that we've been able to pick up through that too, that other people just they didn't have that. They didn't have the gym full of family watching them.
Yeah. I think it's more meaningful than we realize, right? Because you only realize what you have, the way you grew up as your experience. So it's hard to think of out, like, I never grew up with people who didn't know who I was, or people that fed into me, and all these families that knew me. So it's hard for us to sit in that position, but I 100% believe that experience has helped shape and strengthen some of those things that are in us, like getting the opportunity to lead, getting the opportunity to establish relationship, getting the opportunity to contribute, around the community in whatever way that is, potlatch days or whatever. It's just like, I think the small town gives you opportunities to experience life. And I know a lot of kids, my son's friends, they come over to our property and like, they don't know how to split wood. They've never split wood. And they like, can I try that? Like, absolutely. You want a weed eat too? Like, let's get it going.
Was there a teacher or a coach or just like somebody in the community that you really looked up to that taught you some of that? Or was it maybe?
Oh yeah. I think, like, from a teacher perspective, there was I liked a lot of teachers, but the two that in my opinion were the best were Mr. Bowers and Mr. Haddock. And I think both different. And Mr. Bowers, he was intimidating as heck. But I think the commonality was they expected the most. And so I think kids rise to the level of expectations, and they taught you in a way that you could achieve it. So it wasn't high expectations with no, I'm going to be a terrible teacher, but I'm going to expect just to put you in a hard class. Like, my whole career in numbers was because, I think I'm naturally okay with numbers, and my family's pretty good with numbers, all my siblings, but we were all good with numbers. But Mr. Haddock taught us why it made sense. Like, this is why he didn't teach us equations. He taught us why this made sense. So when I went to college, and they're like, well, what, and I was taking a ton of math classes because they were super easy, because they were like, yeah, Mr. Haddock already taught us all this stuff. So when I had to take my, declare for my major, I was like, I'm going to be a business major. I went to one business law class at night for 4 hours and quit halfway through. I was like, I am not going to survive. This is the worst thing ever invented. But I was a junior. And so I was like, the only way I'm going to graduate is if I'm a math major. But because of what he had expected and what he had taught, I was a math major in 4 years, no problem. And that led into my degree in my job as a financial advisor. Like, I became a CFP because I was like, I have the number side. I don't necessarily want to be a teacher. From what I was told, I had too much personality to be an actuary. And so they were like, well, you could work with people and numbers. And I was like, perfect. I didn't even know this job existed, but I'm all about it. I wanted to learn a skill, in creating wealth. So I was like, let's do that. And I can do numbers and talk to people, and turned out to be perfect fit.
Feels like kind of a calling for you, because you helping, because there's a big part of financial planning too. It's helping people decide what they want their lives to look like. And, it goes back to, who are you? What are you passionate about?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and you don't know it at the time. So you kind of look back and there's flashes of what were times when I felt the most joy, the most alive, the most fulfilled. I think those are pieces of the puzzle of who you're really designed to be. So definitely, my thing, no matter where I go, is I want to say things that are true, but when I say them, I want the outcome to be, hope and purpose. So I was like, can I do that in financial advice? It's like, yeah, I can help people find meaning in their life that they can support with dollars. Awesome. I can talk to athletes and tell them true things that give them hope and purpose, that it's not all about performance, that they're valuable, whether they score another point, hit a home run, do whatever, so it's like, that's kind of the filter that I look through life through. Am I doing that? And if I'm not doing that in a role, it probably means that I don't need that in my life, really, because you have to say no to a lot of good things to grab a hold of a few great things,
That's really good advice.
Yeah. Easier said than done, right? But
Yeah.
I think, I think about like when I'm in high school, like you don't know which college you're going to go to. You don't know they're asking like, what do you want to study? I don't even know what these subjects are or what they mean. I mean, people are like, oh, I took this. I don't remember any classes that I took. Maybe it's my bad memory and I need to take some more lion's mane or whatever. But it's like you have to go through and find things that have purpose and value and continue to throw yourself into those and step away from things that are just like, yeah, somebody else is doing, but it's not my passion. Like we only have so much time. What am I really going to use my most valuable resource, which is time, to do?
Yeah.
Stuff like this podcast.
Yes.
Right?
Like, let me block out as much time as possible because this is important.
Right. Shelby and I have had those conversations. This resonates with me big time. How are you going to spend your time? How are you going to spend your time? I love this. I've learned so much about you, Brad, in this whole conversation. I had no idea, but I didn't get a chance to know you before. So
I think and what I've told people, and especially during COVID, when like the markets were crashing, people were freaking out for a couple months.
Yeah.
It was like the thing that carried that didn't lose any value. In fact, only got more valuable was relationships. So relationships are the thing that are most valuable. So as you think about what makes somebody rich or poor, it's not their balance sheet. It's who are the people that are engaged in their lives and who are you engaged in their life in a positive way. So I think again, getting back to Potlatch, I could drive into that town, call Gabe, call Jacob Vowles. I could call my friends, and it would be like we never dropped off. It's just such a ground in solid foundation from which to build the rest of your life from.
It's true. It's like those years, and maybe it's because there weren't very many of us. So the friendships of, like for me, I went K-12. I was there all the years. Like if you're going to spend that much time with people, you're probably pretty bonded by the end. It's kind of
yeah. When I got to tell you, I mean, this is a little bit of a side note, but let's hear. How much older were you than Geraldine?
2 years.
Okay, so you were 4 years older than me. I was so intimidated by you. I was like,
oh, really?
That, yeah, and was it Clark?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was just coming like Clark was like, that's a grown man. Like I'm terrified of you. I just, because we had the junior high and the high school together, right? I was like, blend into the background. Don't be seen. Like I was so intimidated by all the older people. They were just like larger than life characters. It's hilarious.
I get it because it's, Cam's 5 years older than I am, so a little bit more of an age difference, but it was the same thing. Like when that's how I was with Temple, was just like Temple Anderson, right? Like they seem so grown up and old and like they have it all together and they have the car and the cool clothes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're just like,
it's a reference point that's funny because when I hear Clark, I remember he was the baby of the Carpenters.
Yeah, because he was the baby.
So for me, I remember Mark. Mark was the grown man, like the oldest, right? And then Lance, who'd bust my butt in football practice, and then Damon, who I graduated with. And but yeah, so it's all a reference point, Brad. Isn't it wild?
Oh, for sure. I can guarantee though, I was never the big intimidating guy on campus one day in my life. I think I left there.
Big guy. You might not have been the big guy, but
yeah, and you probably inspired a lot of guys younger than you.
Yeah, I bet we're gonna get somebody from the early 2000s on here, and they're gonna be like, I listened to that, and who I found really intimidating was Brad Nicholson. Like he was a god.
Yes.
I mean, because
I don't think I went through puberty till a sophomore in college. I don't think I scared a soul. But you were the big basketball player. I think it's an interesting thinking back on that and how it feels when you're sitting in the bleachers watching. It's the closest thing. It's the biggest game you ever see, probably. Yeah.
Right. And so these are. It's funny because when I was talking, I think it was just today when Cam and I were texting and I was like, yeah, I've been texting with Brad. And he was like, so how long have you known him? Or I can't remember exactly how you asked it, Cam. And I was like, well, kind of I don't remember ever not knowing him, but also not at all. I've actually talked to him more on text today than all the words we've spoken to each other in the entire time I've been alive. But, I hung out with Gerald Lee, and Nick and Kevin were on the same team from childhood on. So I feel like I spent a lot of time talking to Nick and driving around in all of our minivans that we all had back, all of our families had, going to Highland Inns. And I think my dad and your dad coached baseball together, and I somehow ended up driving all these kids or something.
For sure, because Kevin was unbelievable in baseball. Like, he was carrying the water, him and Aaron Stuvlin.
Aaron Stuvlin.
They were the baseball team we never had, for sure. But no, it's just amazing because you have these generation, like with the Sawyers too, Julie Sawyer and then Mark Sawyer. So it's like you had all these families that just spent 20 of the best years and meaningful years of their lives together, and the kids are intertwined and experiences together, and you all stay fairly close. It's like, how do you not have a bond,
Well, even more than that, like, I remember talking to my mom about that with the Sawyers, that like I hung out with Ange and Kevin's in the same class as Mark and like all this stuff. And she was like, well, and then I was like, but the crazy thing is, like, my dad and John graduated from high school together and we're friends in high school. And my mom was like, well, actually your grandpa and John's dad were friends. And I'm like, oh my God, this goes back so far, right? It's just like,
And you know what the thing is it might be a uniqueness that doesn't happen anymore, because with the portability of remote working and the ability for people to move and live in different spots, and kind of the world's opened up. Like I said, I never flew on an airplane until I was a sophomore in college. Like,
that's wild.
I and maybe that was like, yeah, Brad, you were really sheltered, but I also think that was more common. Like, everybody stayed within a 1 to 2 hour drive of, Timberline was probably the furthest, and most people got away most of the time. And everything else that you needed happened in that area. Family was all there. Events were all there. And I don't know, my kids won't experience that.
Like you said, it's everything you needed. I remember when I was in high school and we went to state basketball, and it was the first time we'd been to state in a long time, and everybody going down and finding out that was the furthest a lot of people I knew had been from home. And they were talking about, like, because they hadn't been to Boise, we hadn't gone in a while. And so, state basketball really got people out of their comfort zone. But I remember that being a lot of people saying, like, maybe they'd been to Grangeville, but that was as far south as it. And if you went to the coast, or you went, somewhere, you drove, even if it was a 3-day drive, like, you didn't get on a plane.
No, we furthest we ever went, I think we went to Disneyland one year, and we for sure drove like that.
Yeah.
We did it once, and that was it. And
big car culture.
And at the same time, I don't feel like I missed out on anything, like I really don't. So it's kind of crazy. It's pretty, it's almost, like I said, it's almost like a fairy tale. Like it doesn't even really seem true that you could grow up in that way. Like, I used to think too that I was like, no, I'm not like a hillbilly, kind of like, those people there in St. Mary's, I'm close to Moscow, and it's like, some of those people are kind of backwoodsy, but, and then people are like, you used to hunt like animals, and you say you live on Nicholson Road and you lived in the town of 700. And I was like, well, I didn't actually live in town. It was like 3 miles outside of town.
Actually, outside of town.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
But then you start to realize, like, it's like a badge of honor. Like, how big is the town you grew up in? But what it goes to show you is, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. You have skills and abilities that can go out and succeed anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just, what's the sequence of events that gets you to your spot,
Yeah.
So, and I think a theme that's emerged from this podcast is just how well prepared we really were. And and for a lot of us, it was a surprise. Like we were surprisingly well prepared for the world because of all the things you just described and the experiences that we shared. And we went out, I remember going out thinking, oh man, this is going to be bumpy. And sure, it was on a level, and we would make fun of ourselves from where we were from. But then after some time passed, we'd kind of look around and go, actually, this is pretty good. We're handling this, we're pretty good here.
What I was thinking about that, actually, I mean, Kate's experience and all the stuff she's done with special forces, like, dang, that's impressive.
Right?
And then, Clark talking about, going to the Marines, and he was writing that that letter, and it was like the highest score in the region, you know. And you know, I was thinking about my situation. Like I went in, I actually got like runner up to National Player of the Year my senior year. It's like from Potlatch, like
That's awesome.
no background, like, you know, so there's all these things where it's like, it definitely wasn't a detriment to grow up in this area. If anything, you were prepared to go out. And I think we were fortunate. It's not just because it was small. It's like, you're not lucky enough to have a coach like Coach Lovell. Like that was just a rare gem, but also a teacher like Mr. Haddock that stayed and taught my mom, you know, and taught me. And then, you know, Mr. Bowers and you know, Mr. Potter obviously came in and like you had all these really, like, how do you attract someone that good at their job to a small town like Potlatch, where I'm sure the pay is not the best you could afford, you know, the best that you could get paid anywhere, but the lifestyle that you could have and the community you could have were unmatched. You know what I mean?
And maybe they liked having the impact that they could have.
Yeah.
You know, in a small town. Because, you know, think about it, all the names, this might be the first mention we've had from Mr. Bauer. I can't remember, but I think having we hear the same names, right? So if you want to have an impact on a lot of people, a strong impact, it might be teaching, you know, when you start out, you might think it's a big school. I can impact so many more people if I teach at this big school. But this podcast is making me think maybe a small school. So where to go?
Yeah, well, I always say like Jesus had 12. How many people do I need to impact?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
To really get meaning, to have meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What depth do you go with? If I see 1,000 people one time, or, you know, 100 people, you know, 10 people 100 times, which one's going to have the most impact, right?
Yeah, I work in an institution that has thousands of people. And yet the people I really work with over and over and over again are probably just a couple dozen, you know, where we really get to know each other and build trust, and you can do a lot with that.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I love looking back. I mean, except for my senior photo, I love everything about my experience with
so. We got to find the senior photo.
We post a senior photo, and I really hope that the one I'm able to get a hold of is the one that, but if you're in Potlatch, swing by class of 1997 and take a look at Brad's look with his unsnapped overalls. And
how was the hair, Brad? What was the hair like back then?
It was borderline bowl cut, you know. It was
really,
it was an unfortunate time.
Also, so there's this white t-shirt. What I want to know is, why did you cut the sleeves off of your t-shirt before you sat on the hay bale? Why were these the choices?
He was going to show the guns. Maybe
there was no. I mean, 115 is barely bone there. You know what I mean? And like, I say this often. Like, I think my mom was too supportive. She was like, "Brad, you're the best. Whatever you do is that looks great, honey."
You're definitely making the right decision with this look.
Like, no, that was not a good decision, Mom. You need to step in an adult here, because this is awful. But my wife, when she came to visit, she couldn't hardly believe it. She just absolutely just like couldn't stop laughing. Yeah. I mean, the tears that were coming down from seeing that picture. But you know what? She married me, so who got the last laugh? You know
That's right. Who's laughing now? Who's laughing now? You know, the funny thing is that we got to do a comparison, because when I looked at your senior photo, Brad, I actually it was a callback to Cam's senior photo, where he also has a sleeveless white tank top on.
I got to see
it.
Yeah.
I think he has a mullet though, so there's the mullet.
Yes.
But
the mullet's back. The mullet's popular again. You know, I don't think the bowl cut's ever coming back. I hope.
I hope not. I feel like we're not doing a good job of learning from history about the mullet and the bowl cut and these things.
I'm of an age where I had both. I had the bowl cut in the 70s, right? When I was a little, and then I got to just graduate to the mullet in the 80s. It was tremendous.
Yeah, I got to see this picture. I'm sure I've seen it, because I've spent so many hours like waiting for somebody to come pick me up. just looking at all the photos, walking around the
I don't think,
oval there?
think that Cam's mom did not let him put that in the
That's
composite,
true.
I'm pretty
She
sure.
had me put
I
the
think
jacket.
you have a tie. You have a tie in the composite. There isn't, your mother was not letting that happen.
Gladys would not appreciate that.
No.
Yeah, she let the Varney pass and put it in the little album that we had, It was a
Yeah.
Varney tank top.
He was able to give that out to his friends, but not
Stonewashed jeans, Brad.
Yeah. Gladys was adulting, Brad. Gladys was adulting.
Darla was just letting it happen. She was worried about Nick, just resting after Jura Lee, and I just kind of slipped under the.
You slipped in there.
Just do whatever you want.
Kids
honey.
are a lot of work.
Not causing problems. Just looks great, as she's trying to get some rest.
So glad you have a picture. Okay, good.
There's a picture. Check.
That's the thing is I think Jerry and I went and did our pictures together. I think his grandma took the pictures.
Nice.
But yet he chose a different set. I'm like, yeah, these are the pictures we got. I'm here on a hay bale, guns out,
Yeah.
I actually zoomed in on Jerry's, and he's definitely more put together than you are. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not even close. I look at my mom and dad's photos because they graduated, right? And they're all the, smooth skin.
Was it black and white still?
My mom has some sort of weird fur thing. Like they all do. They all have some sort of, it's like they're wearing a dress with a fur collar or like a boa. I don't know what's happening there.
It was very cold, maybe.
It was classy.
Well, but then why would you have
classy?
I don't know.
That is interesting.
It was a time. It's of their time.
60s, different time.
Yeah, it's of their moment.
Yeah. The only redeeming, thing that I have is even with that look, I carried on my dad's tradition of being the salutatorian and the class president. I mean, it might have been some shallow waters there for our class or something. You're like,
well played, sir.
Yeah,
there you go.
So that's the only thing he's proud of me up for is that I didn't let the family down and class president.
Class president is your shining achievement. I'm pretty sure your dad's proud of you for a lot of things.
Do you remember your speech? Did you have to give a speech when you were running?
I don't remember the speech at all. I did have to for the salutatorian.
Oh yeah, you would have. Yeah, for the commencement, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. I didn't pass out or anything, so I seemed to go okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that the bar is just didn't pass out, survived.
Yeah. I actually think I got a piece of it from Tim the Toolman Taylor from that TV show.
Come on, from Tim Allen.
Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Home Improvement. But I think it was the neighbor, Wilson or whatever.
Wilson.
Yes.
He said something profound about, the journey, something about the journey. And I think I actually used that. And I think
good reference.
If anyone remembers this reference, anyone from Brad's class or anybody, we gotta let us know.
It was not memorable. It was not.
Is anybody rolling video of Brad at that moment?
Oh, somebody had to have a camcorder. There had to be a camcorder.
Yes, there's got to be a camcorder in '97. Come on.
Yeah. A little shoulder VHS for
and
sure.
Did you have the underalls or the whatever the overalls under the?
It was and it wasn't normal overalls. I don't think it was the train conductor overalls because that was a big thing with Gabe. Yeah. So that was what we would wear to dances.
Was it like Polar Express that had just come out or something? What was that?
I don't know. I really can't explain it.
That's amazing.
It was a thing. It was a
thing.
And
it was the 90s.
If you check Gabe's senior picture, I think he's wearing a conductor's hat and also wearing that. But
conductor's hat.
Okay, we have a shout out for Gabe to produce this photo.
But he could bench 275. So I mean, his was looking a lot better than
his gun show is a little different collection.
For sure. It was good to be friends with him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You always want the big friends. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, before we sign off, is there anything else that any memories or anything that we didn't cover that you want to add before we sign off?
I think we covered most. I mean, I just one correction is that the Bakers did have a Geo Metro, and it got 60 miles to the gallon. And I probably almost died in that thing like 10 times because Gabe drove like it was in NASCAR. And, sweet Barb was probably let the girls do whatever they wanted, because once they got through Gabe, it's like, okay, we survived, So just that. But I also want to say that, like, I love the relationship component of what this is, and kind of like going through and listening to the stories and getting context for what people experience is such a cool thing that you guys are doing. So I love this, and I can't wait to hear, more of kind of the history of what happened, and in the loyal and true Potlatch history, like what happened, because you're there for such a blink, it just happens. And you have some general, but you really lose all context for any of the other history that's happened since you were there. And it's such a short time, but it feels like such a big part of your life. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, how does such a short time that went so fast feel like such a big part of your story?
It's profound, isn't it? How short and yet meaningful it is.
Yeah,
it is. And we appreciate the support, and that you would take time out of your busy schedule to chat with us.
Absolutely.
It's good to catch up, get our community connections stronger and enhanced.
Yeah,
we appreciate
absolutely.
it. Well, thank you, everyone. And thanks to our listeners. We appreciate it. Stay loyal and true.
Loyal and true.
Go Loggers.
Yeah.